as we mentioned throughout our entire broadcast, we're committed to helping and supporting survivors of domestic violence and all forms of violence. So I want to bring in Megan here now from the Family Peace Center. Megan, thank you for being with us this morning. You know, this is really such an important topic to be talking about. And today we're talking about specifically financial abuse. So for anyone who's maybe not familiar, what is financial abuse?
Sure. Well, first, thank you so much for having me this morning and talking about this important topic. I think we do a really good job of talking about some of the more easily identifiable forms of abuse, like physical violence, and sometimes we miss that almost 100% of survivors also experience some form of financial abuse, whether that's taking money from survivors, forcing them to work, not allowing them to work, hiding information about assets, or even engaging in what we call litigious abuse, which includes repeatedly motioning matters back into court, which can cause high legal fees, withholding child support. It really runs a long array of tactics that offenders might use in the relationship to keep them trapped.
Yeah, and I know you kind of talked about it a little bit, but it's so oftentimes where multiple forms of abuse kind of go hand in hand, where it's not strictly just that financial abuse, but sometimes it's more than one.
Yeah, so financial abuse in and of itself can be really isolating, right? So if you're, for example, living in a rural community and you don't have access to financial resources, things like transportation are going to be really challenging, access to a cell phone device or internet so that you can find what support services are available in the community. And so escaping can be that much more difficult when you don't have meaningful access to your finances, and causes about 80% of homelessness in women and children. Domestic violence does.
So when someone comes to the Family Peace Center, you know, they're being abused financially, they're unable to get out of a situation like that. What's one thing that you may tell them to do, or one piece of advice that you would offer them?
You know, leaving a domestic violence situation, if that's ultimately your goal, isn't an event, it's a process, right? So you need a safety plan, you need to know what resources you have at your fingertips, and then what resources are actually available in the community. And so reaching out to a support person, whether that's a friend or family member, or contacting the Family Peace Center, can be a huge first step towards pursuing that process. Because if you try to do it in one sweep, oftentimes that's what we see can pull people back in because they weren't prepared with all the things they needed in place at first.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, one of the really important things about it is I know there's statistics as well that show that, like you said, it's a process. It's not just, okay, I'm getting up and I'm leaving. What are some of those statistics, if you have any of those?
Yeah, sure. So it takes about 7 times on average for a survivor to successfully leave their relationship if they're ever able to. Some people really just need to be able to safety plan within their relationship because leaving doesn't ever feel safe enough, or isn't really what they want to see happen. What they want to see happen is for the abuse to stop, right? And so I think that's pretty significant. And that I mentioned about, nearly 100% of these cases include financial abuse. And so I think we often look at these things and think it might be quite simple, or we know what we would do. But as support people, I think it's really important we acknowledge we're not in the situation, and so we're not the expert, and so we don't know what barriers those individuals are facing.
Absolutely. And what kind of services do you guys offer at the Family Peace? I know you have been open just about 2 years now.
Yeah, so a lot, really. So we have case managers and frontline crisis navigators that can do things like system navigation and assist with filing orders of protection, but also just offer emotional support. We have a great wellness program that includes support groups and journaling workshops and trauma-informed yoga for survivors. But we also have robust partnerships and collaborations with service providers that offer housing, legal assistance, counseling services, so that we can really get at all of the different variety of issues that survivors face in one location, so they don't have to do those things all over town with children in tow, up against, for example, transportation barriers, which a survivor may face if they've been financially abused.
Well, Megan, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You guys do so much for our community. Also, you can attend a little movie and panel this Thursday exploring more forms of financial abuse in Deb. You see the information there on your screen. There'll also be some special guests as well speaking to giving some advice as well. So Megan, thank you so much again for being with us.
Thank you again for raising awareness of domestic violence this October.
Of course.